search for
I
it.
didn't look for it. No.
Yeah,
we
no.
just were like, hey, come out. It's fine. It's probably still in
Tooth
there
Fairy
somewhere.
knows where to find
Yeah.
me.
Then another thing they would do on Halloween were they would make these sugary treats made of hazelnut, nutmeg before bed, and on Halloween, and they would dream of their future husband. So if they ate that,
why
before they
is
went to
it
bed,
always husbands? Always.
I don't know. That's all they cared about. The women back then, they had to get married.
That's basically
That's all their job was. So
yeah, I guess so. That sounds very boring.
yeah, they couldn't even have a party.
Terrible.
Well, they're having like you would have saw in Legend of Sleepy Hollow, like that harvest festival dance and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that was around the time
movie
that
with Johnny
book
Depp
was.
and
Yeah,
what's her face?
Christina Ricci.
Yes, and Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken's in it. Yes,
He's a handsome old man.
It's another one I had a crush on.
We had to watch that now because that's a good movie.
It
And
is a good
Johnny
movie.
Depp is such a dork in that movie too.
I love
just
it.
love him like that.
But Legend of Sleepy Hollow was written around that time in the 1800s, and it was based on a place in New York. And it's
still there.
Yep, it's still there. And it was like the first ghost story written in the United States. So that's kind of cool.
Sweet. And it takes place in New York State.
Yeah. We should go there.
We should.
So what was it? Oh yeah, they ate the treats. Okay, now we're going into the second half of the 19th century. Many Irish came to America fleeing the famine. I was like, why can't I think of that word?
Potato famine.
And with them, because our people, the Irish and the Scottish, were big about Halloween and Samhain. It all came from their ancestors, right? So they came storming to America because we got to get out of here. England's a bastard.
The Irish and the Scots, though, they totally took Christianity and paganism and wove them into something completely different. They totally, because they're very superstitious. They're like little fairy folk. They believe in fairies. They believe in banshees. They believe in all that. Mm-hmm. And they go to church.
Catholic.
And they go to church.
Protestant, yeah.
And they'll burn you if you're a witch.
Yeah. So
even though they're talking about
the
fairies.
Irish basically they invented Halloween, basically. So they brought with them lots of these traditions. And it became
awesome.
It became more about community and neighbors getting together than paganism and witchcraft at this time. Because they were Catholic and they didn't care about that. They wanted their cake and eat it too. They were like, we're going to have a party and we're going to go to church and do the sign of the cross.
But we need our party.
Parties were for children and adults. They had Irish tradition. They kind of blended Irish and American traditions. They began to dress up in costumes again and going to houses for food, for parties, and games to celebrate. They brought their traditions of carving turnips that turned into carving pumpkins, and they believed that those pumpkins would help ward off evil spirits and welcome their ancestors. So they would put them outside on their porch to welcome ancestors but scare away the evil. Why their ancestors wouldn't be afraid and only evil people? You'd think the ancestors would be afraid of a scary thing and not, but that's how they believe.
Oh, well, carving pumpkins is the best, even though it's gross when you're pulling out the seeds. But then you get to roast the seeds and eat them, and they're delicious.
Yes, they are.
And you get a fun pumpkin. Yeah.
And that kind of going houses to house for parties and food was another form of trick or treating at the time. So there's another kind of bringing trick or treating to the United States. They went from home to home, eating food with each other, having fun in their neighborhoods together. So that was kind of like the basis of trick-or-treating in the United States when it kind of started. But it gets more, evolves as we go on. At the beginning of the 20th century, newspapers and community leaders, because the church gets involved again with everything, encouraged people to remove all scary things from Halloween celebrations. No more creepy costumes, because they were making costumes at home back then. And we've seen the paper mache and hay and all that stuff.
Oh, these are terrifying.
The most terrifying things they ever saw. They want all that gone. Mm-hmm. So, they took all the superstition, religious beliefs right out of it. They're like, that's not what it's about anymore. We're not doing that anymore. And they really made people have to follow those rules. And then, oh wait, I jumped around here. Hold on. So again, even though they did that, those things still come back around again, because that's just what people wanted. So even though they tried to say we're going to take all the scary out of it, people still want to dress up in costumes. They still wanted to go trick or treating. They
I want to be scared. Damn it!
So
I love being scared.
When the Great Depression came around, they got a little nervous because people didn't have a lot of money, and they're afraid that people are going to start stealing when they're going around. So, Halloween became called Mischief Night at that point. They would, people would come around, and if you didn't give them something, they would basically vandalize your house. So
here's your trick.
Yeah. And the thing with Halloween, it started to give people think of the movie Purge. One night a year where you can do anything you probably wouldn't normally do. Everything's kind of turned upside down. You can go and do all this stuff and get away with it kind of thing. So that's what was kind of giving people the permission to do it. And that's why it was so tempting to continue it, because people who would follow the rules all the time felt that they could disguise themselves and go do things. And it was the one night they could do it. Mm-hmm. So it was very tempting for people to do that. Trick-or-treating continued to the 30s. When World War II started, there was a sugar ration, so they couldn't really do candy anymore. And it didn't reemerge again until the 40s. In 1939, American Journal, because of all the things that, like, they couldn't give out candy anymore, so it was causing more vandalism, and people didn't have things to give people, so people were just going around tearing up the cities and stuff. But we really start to see the cultural, economical, and race separation in our country, and we always have, but this Halloween's showing it, because people that had money weren't getting vandalized, and people that didn't have money were the ones that everything's getting tearing up. You know what I mean? Because it showed the differences in economic wealth and who you were. And in 1939, the American Journal, it was a middle class publication, so people on one side of town weren't reading that, and people on the other side of town were. They encouraged people to have home parties with lots of food and decorations. And this is a quote: they would assure that little rowdies from the other side of town will join the party spirit and leave the front gates intact. So basically, we'll have all this stuff and it'll keep people busy, so they won't want to destroy our homes. But it wasn't stated in there, but everyone knew that the little rowdies from the other side of town weren't going to get invited to these parties.
Oh no.
So basically, have your own parties, lock your gates, don't let anyone else in. Basically what they're telling people. Let the rowdies on the other side of town tear each other apart, and we'll just live over here in the lap of luxury and enjoy ourselves. So basically the middle class decided they were going to do this. So in the 50s, as time went on, and middle class became like the thing to look out for, and the baby boom happened, and there's a lot of kids now, tons of kids, because baby boom was all these children. Mm-hmm. They decided to focus on trick-or-treating again, because for one, it was cheaper than having parties in your home, because a whole community was involved in it. Right. So it was less things that you had to do. But two, they were having school parties, and they were focusing more on the kids, not so much adults during the 50s. And corporate America was super happy about this, because they got right in on the candy stuff. And the candy industry became a multi-million-dollar industry because of Halloween. Mm-hmm. So throughout history, Christian groups tried to demonize Halloween. It's been a thing through our lifetime, and right up until Christianity spread in the Celtic countries, way back when Samhain was being celebrated. The irony of it is that Christianity itself is what preserved the traditions that were pagan.
Right.
They're the ones that put their holidays into those pagan holidays. They're the ones that took those traditions and said that they weren't their traditions anymore. Because
when people think of Halloween, they don't think of All Saints Day. They think of Halloween.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is, ancient Celts didn't believe or worship anything like the devil. There wasn't a devil. And the modern day pagans or witches do not believe in the devil. The devil isn't part of their
belief
system. So they're demonizing something that they created, basically. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do, the evil part of it was nothing to do with what the pagans were celebrating at all.
No.
They weren't worshiping any evil things. They were actually trying to prevent evil things.
What it was is, like, in the ancient times, the priests and whatnot, the Catholic faith, feared the unknown.
Yeah.
And because these people were practicing something that they didn't know anything about, they were scared of it. Like, this has to be evil.
Yeah.
So they're worshiping this god with horns that comes out of the forest. Oh my god, it has to be Satan. It has horns, and he's evil, and he's not evil. It's just, It's more of the unknown.
It's more of Christianity putting their beliefs on other people, which, and then plus trying to convert everyone, saying this is the only right way. So to convert you, to get you to practice it, we'll just keep the same traditions and call it something else and say you're worshiping our God. So basically, you just created the thing that you hate. You created it. Right. But now you're trying to make people feel like they're evil if they do it.
We're not talking about our friends that are listening to this that are Christian and Catholic.
I'm talking about way back when.
Right. This is like way back. Way back
and when. I might not be a practicing Christian, but I don't begrudge anyone else as long as you're not hateful and spiteful.
When we were kids, I loved going to church with you.
Yeah.
Because the Catholic Church is something to be in. It's like awe-inspiring. It's beautiful. Like you go in there and they're speaking in a language I don't understand and they're singing and there's beautiful stained glass and there's statues and there's like incense and it's just like
there's a lot of money involved in it.
Yes. But I mean, as a non-Catholic going to church with you, it was kind of like something
magical.
Yeah, it was. It really was. It was just like something different because they gave you real wine in Catholic church. Yeah. I went to a little Protestant community church. It was tiny.
You had Welch's grape juice. I thought that
we
was
had
great.
Welch's grape juice and cubes of bread.
I thought that was great.
You're like, that tastes way better than the crap I gotta drink at church.
Yeah. So, basically the Christianity took, and if you look at Catholic faith and the practices they do, there's a lot of pagan traditions. Yeah. If you look at ancient pagan ways of celebrating, there's a lot of with incense and things like that and holy oils. That all stuff was stems. That's a pagan. Pagans did that too. I'm not saying anyone's the right or wrong. I'm just saying that they have similarities.
Yeah, and I'm like one of those. As long as your religion isn't hurting anyone else, go for it. You do you.
Yeah,
you do what you.
Long as
you do what you want to do. You do what feels right for you.
Yeah, and I'll do what's right for me.
Right, exactly. My issue that I have is I don't want anyone trying to convert me to something. Like I believe what I believe, and I'm going to keep that to myself. And I'm not going to tell you what you should believe, so don't tell me what I should believe. That's my belief.
And don't use your religion to spew hate.
Exactly.
Because that's not part of anyone's religion.
No.
And if you're using it that way, then you're not doing it right. That's just my opinion.
I'm not a practicing Christian, but I still like to go to church. Right. It's one of those, it's more of like the community of it, you go there and everybody's there and depending on what church you go to. Most people are happy.
Right.
And the church that I was raised in is just, I don't know, it's the same, the older people that were old when I went there, they're still there and they're still old. But it's kind of there's a comfort there, you know, it's oh, it's the same. Yeah. And even now, if I'm at the church for a function, I'll go upstairs and look in the pews. It's the same, velvet cushions, and they're very sun-faded and they've been flipped over and stuff, but it still smells the same up there.
I bet it does.
It's crazy. Up there, I'm like, it just took me back 40 years in time.
We're old.
Yeah, or 30 years. It's just insane. I'm a little kid again, sitting in church trying to find something to draw on. While the minister does the sermon. Hoping my mom has forever.
Hoping my mom has a mint in her purse I can eat.
Well, somebody always had a little notebook with a pen, and I remember just writing in the notebook.
Yeah. Well, with the Christian, how I said they try to demonize Halloween over and over again, and I'm not talking about everyday Christians. I'm talking about very ones that maybe take their religion
ones that are I don't want to say heretical, but
that use their religion
as a
weapon, and use their religion as the be all end all. Because that's not how you should see. You should not be judging other people.
My way or the highway, right?
Yes. So in the late 70s, conservative
fanatical. That's the word I'm looking for. There.
In the late 70s, conservative Christians, evangelical. Yeah, I can't say it. Everyone knows I can't talk now. By now, you should know I can't speak. They become a very influential part of the political process, our politics. They start to infuse themselves, which it shouldn't be, but they do, in America, in the Americans' lives. And they viewed Halloween associated with the devil, and they would speak out about that a lot. From the 1960s, many churches tried to lure children away from, and this is going on to today. This stuff happens today, which blows my mind, okay?
They ain't luring me nowhere.
No, but from this, about the 1960s on, churches, some churches, These are the churches that